Professor, how are you? It's always a pleasure.
The same to you, Mitch.
Hey, you could be serious once in a while, God dang it. I said you were the professor. Hey, and by the way, I don't know if you, well, I mean, because the last episode that we recorded was something about, it was a Malthusian concept about
Yes,
overpopulation
right.
and this kind of type of thing. A little bit too heady lately. So I'm thinking, let's do a little bit more lightweight topic, you know?
All right.
And to that end, because you and I discussed it, I'm cracking the first beer on Mitch Wonders in a long time.
Nice.
And I raised one to your honor from Zilker Brewing. Is that close enough? Everybody, should I
That's
point to
cool.
it?
Looks
let's catch
good.
a let's catch a local sponsorship.
I'm sitting here sober like an idiot now. If I knew there was drinking
Well,
allowed.
I'm sober now, and this, I mean, I'll be honest. Zilker Brewing is one of my favorite in Austin. Pint House, if you're listening, probably my favorite. Austin Beer Works. Don't get me started. I'll go on forever. But yeah, I mean, because I was actually cleaning. I started thinking about this the other day because I was pulling out, believe it or not, I have a DVD player out in the garage. I'm like, when the hell's the yeah, when's the last time I used that? But there it remains because we did an episode early on about getting rid of junk like you don't use. And
Yes.
I did listen a little bit, but not a lot. But because I'm thinking it's got to be somebody wants that, right? So I looked, I started looking around, and believe it or not, because this is getting creepy. I think it's like subliminal now, where you start thinking about stuff and advertisers hit you. So
Yes.
I didn't search it. I just hopped on like MSN because I like that's one of my favorites for news. I don't
Mhm.
know about you. Do you have a favorite?
Not really. I'm using podcasts more than anything now, or reading online,
Yeah,
kind of skipping around.
yeah, me too. I mean, because I'll bounce occasionally CNN, but usually MSN. But MSN like last month had an article about old technology or old junk you might have laying around. Like they're like, don't throw it away because it might be worth some money. Because that's
Mhm.
going to get somebody's interest, right?
Yep.
So I thought we could discuss a few of these today because you might have some laying around the house. You got kids. I mean, I had kids, and a lot of this stuff is because we had kids. We might have it laying around.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But
So
for
what do
like
you
for
go?
oh, go ahead.
I was going to
Well,
say
some of
that.
these things like also so let's just keep talking over each other, see how that goes. I'll just say we need DT in here so we can get a collaborative somebody we can talk over. But also on some of these things, we'll give you the reference to where you can sell them to. So in
Oh,
case you got
cool.
them hanging around.
Cool. Well, I've got an old Nintendo that I think the first generation Nintendo game that, and I actually got it like when I was in graduate school. I got it when I was down in Florida.
Attaboy.
It's the perfect thing
Attaboy.
for a PhD student to be, playing mushroom, the whatever that basic jumping on the mushrooms and all that stuff. It just seemed like,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was amazing enough. I am old enough. I'm a little bit older than you, and you remember Pong came out, and it was like
I do. It was everything.
fascinating to us. And I was like, and now you look at it and you think, oh, good, it's basically, just the idea of moving two paddles. It was like the world has changed. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it did have a big impact, and that Nintendo had a big impact. So it makes sense to me there'd be some nostalgia market for that.
Yeah, that's part of it. Because I can remember me and Mook, our fitness guru, we would like a Saturday night, something to do. We would go to the mall where they were selling those pong games. We couldn't afford it, but we would sit in Sears and play it for like a half hour.
That's right. That's right. That's
But
fun.
but that was a great Saturday night to us. We're simple folk. But yeah, I mean, speaking of Nintendo, there's like 15 of these. I don't know how many we're gonna get through, but because some of them are so old, you're like, let's just. And some of you just feel too stupid for ever having bought them, and you'll know it when
Yep.
you hear it because I'll. But the Nintendo Game Boy is like the first one they talked about,
Yep.
and I guarantee my boys had that because my kids. I don't know when this came out, but it was tough keeping up with for me out because we they don't mention this here, but the damn Pokemon cards. My God, is that what they were? The cards?
Yeah. Yep.
I couldn't keep up with those. I couldn't afford the ones they wanted, but
No. Well, there's a weird thing about what the psychology of collecting things, and that might be not be specifically what you were thinking of talking about with all these different ones, but I think it's part of it. It's at least close to it because you have those things where you need to get all the Pokemon cards, and now the rare ones are worth, they're so hard, and
yeah,
you're trading with people and stuff like that to get them. And I remember the same when I was a kid, we had marbles, And if you got a certain kind
Oh
of,
yeah,
you'd have a certain, there were real
Dealies.
common cat's eyes and whatever, the different ones. But if there was a rare one, they used to do, one of my buddies owned, his dad owned a Sunoco station, and they had NFL. I don't know if you remember that, but little stickers that you could buy, you could get a book and you'd put little stickers for every team. So they had like all the
Oh,
players for every team.
I
It
do
was like a
kind of remember that.
uh plastic kind of booklet or whatever, and you so it was like kind of like stamp collecting for old people, and for us it was you find all the Bears players that suck in 1972, which is all of them,
Oh,
before
that was a
Wahlberg
big book.
got there. It's like Encyclopedia Britannica, you get a new one every month. There's so many bad Bear players that we can
Oh my
put up.
God.
But I remember that stuff, and it was like, and you'd buy, I don't know if they came with, I think those came with fill-ups. When you filled your tank at Sunoco, you'd get a little pack of 4 or 5, kind of
Oh
like with
man, don't get
buying
me
gum
started.
for baseball cards or something.
That was back in the day when you get an NFL glass out of a box of laundry detergent too.
That's right.
Don't, we're going too far back now. I was hoping we could stay in the mid '90s, but because the Game Boy, I know they sold brand new for like 120, $200, but now they're selling for the old. But these are a lot of the ones that like, they got to be factory sealed, which good luck finding one.
Yeah.
But they're selling up to 5 grand now.
Wow.
And this
Holy
one they
cow.
say eBay is one of the places that you can buy it. They
Hmm.
also go back. They talk about the second one. They talk about rotary phones, like
Oh, yeah.
that's whatever. But the original, I know. I mean, it's been a long time, so I've been to an auction out in Kernan, Illinois, and I don't have any boxes of rotary phones. But
And the
the
like.
original Apple iPod, I can almost guarantee. I bet you I know I've got an iPod in the kitchen drawer right now.
Nice.
I've tried it. I mean, recently I tried charging it again, like maybe about a few months ago,
uh,
and it's fun going back and just seeing the tunes that I thought were important to have on there.
yeah.
It's like, oh, it's a little embarrassing. But again, they're talking about on eBay the if you got an original Apple iPod, and again, probably factory sealed, the first generation iPods were selling for 15. Well, actually, not even factory sealed, because they say they sold a first gen for 15 grand. 15 grand.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
And a factory sealed one for, are you sitting down? I can see you, so I know you are. But $60,000.
Oh
You
my
believe that?
gosh. Oh my gosh. That's the craziest. How in the world? Well, did you
Well,
ever, again, I keep thinking of other things. I wasn't the tech, I'm old enough that I wasn't, none of that stuff strikes me. I got an Apple IIc when I was in start my master's, because you could do your thesis on it. You wouldn't have to retype it every time you had a printer, and that was an amazing thing. So that's like as far back as I go, and never kept it and never thought about keeping it or anything. But I'm fascinated by the people who factory seals it. I mean, maybe if you worked at Apple or something like that and you got one, you gave them all for
yeah.
Christmas, and one of the kids moves away or whatever before Christmas, and now you've got it as factory sealed and you find it later and you just hit the jackpot. But who does? I remember people doing that when we were adults. Like people would be getting Batman or Superman, adult like action figures or something like that, and not adult action figures. That's a very different thing. That would be DT's show if we want to talk
Yeah,
about.
I knew that name was coming up.
Those are usually life size and female, at least recognizably so. But okay, but back to this topic. On the other hand, but like they would factory, maybe they would buy two toys, one to play with and one to keep in the box because it's supposed to be perfect. And
Oh, yeah, I
that's
remember that. Yeah.
that's just an odd thing. But I think about some kid, if you're 10 and you're doing that, what is going on in your head that you're thinking, I'm investing, this is for the futures market, and then one is to play with, or what psycho
Well,
buys it and never plays with it, keeps it in the thing and says this will be worth something when I'm 50, and my soul is already shriveled up within me, which it already is
I don't
starting to
know.
if you're 10.
Wow, that's breaking my heart. Well, I can see like, the only for us, like maybe, just maybe, now bear with me on this one, is we get
Yes.
it for Christmas, but it's a beautiful snowy day. So we're going out sledding with our friends. And let's say it's DT because he's not here.
Yeah.
And he tries to jump Linton's Hill and he breaks his right hand. So by the time, right, it could happen. By the
Yep.
time that hand heals, there's a new technology, and he just totally forgot about those old Christmas presents. So
Right.
maybe that's one scenario.
That could be one that would not be psychologically disturbing. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means a sequence of events, you still
Yeah,
have it.
it's more fact based than anything else.
There you go.
But
Not even hypothetical. You could say fact based.
but they
Nice.
go they but these four, I was looking at them. It's like, okay, record players, I know that. film
Yep.
projectors. I don't even want typewriters, calculators. But then they get down to this one that this is the one where you should probably feel kind of stupid. Um, the first the first edition Tamagotchi or Tamagotchi. Do you even remember those?
No,
Those were
no.
those stupid little like plastic. They had like a 1 inch screen on a keychain, and you could pretend it was a virtual pet. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that now.
They're very little like
Wow.
buttons, like this just a little, just as simple as the Pong thing, but they look a little blob would bounce up and down. So if it's bouncing up and down, it's too energetic, so you got to punish it. Like whatever. And then or if it's been sleeping all day or whatever, it's like you got to wake it up and you hit it. So it's like four buttons, like dot, wake up. Oh, I woke up my pet. Like
Oh
ah,
man.
but those things, like, cause again, if you find it unopened in your attic, it'll sell for $1,800.
Wow. Holy cow.
But this one, I mean, that because I know I kind of skipped over like the projectors, the calculators, the phones,
Yeah.
but this one just brought back memories of like my grandparents, I have grandparents in Chicago, Illinois, and I have grandparents in Illinois farm country. And in
Hmm.
Illinois farm country, they were, back in the 60s and 70s, they were into, oh, this actually mentions the 70s, uh, German cuckoo clocks. And
Hmm.
I remember my grandma got one for Christmas, and she was so happy with it because, like, it's like it's simple fun, because I remember being so far out in the country, we didn't have cable TV, and that was like, oh, that's a little interesting anyway. I mean, there's that, but but
Yes, I think my
but
grandparents or aunts and uncles or somebody, I know, I remember seeing a bunch of them in people's houses when I was young. I haven't thought about that in years. Hmm.
yeah, I still like them though, because I remember, well, I had a girlfriend back in the day who would become my fiance, then my ex-wife. That's a good story. But she wanted that black cat clock with the swinging tail and the
Oh
eyeballs that go
yeah.
back and forth. And I
Yeah.
remember because back then it must have been pre-internet days, obviously, because I remember seeing one because we saw it when we were on a trip to Wisconsin at a store, and I don't recall seeing it ever. So being as love struck as I was, I told my buddy, I was like, hey, do me a favor, let's take a road trip up to that store in Wisconsin so I can buy this damn clock. And
Holy
I
cow.
did. It was like 3.5 hours one way, and we did it in one day. A lot of Miller ponies probably went down on that day, but but still we did it. But they're saying now it's like the ones that are back date to the 1970s. I'll ask you, what do you think they're worth today?
Oh man.
Not even factory sealed, because probably didn't have factory sealed cuckoo
Well, if they're
clocks.
1970s, they shouldn't be too much. Maybe 1,000?
Yeah, very good. Very good, Mr. Rational. That's why he's a professor. That they date they're worth like $300. They probably cost $300 new.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, well, in Europe too, they have like, I've heard about we went over that at one time and they have a bunch of like city clocks on the squares in these medieval towns. They have the characters that come out just like kind of like a cuckoo at the top of the hour. They come out and, a housewife chases around a
Oh
cat
yeah.
or something like that, or a king
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
something like that. So I assume those were some kind of culturally connected, this little action thing that comes out, the bird comes out or whatever happens on the hour. But you think those things are like from the medieval times, how much interest would you have in a clock from 1970s that does a lot less than that? But I guess,
Oh, it's fascinating, some of that technology in the early European times. Like, for example, my son and I went to local Cabela's, and they happen to have six of these. I think they're called K31s, but it's a 1937 Swiss rifle. But the lever action on it was the unique thing because it was a straight lever action. But they had to
hmm,
do such intricate metal crafting to make that lever just function to, it still
yeah.
functions perfect to this day. It's like 100 years old. I've got it. It's right over there. I could show you, but
That's really
it's
cool.
really impressive.
Yeah.
But okay, here's one. I mean, you may have had one of these. I know I did. I guarantee it. A 1970 Hot Wheels mechanical wristwatch.
Oh man. Yeah, I saw Hot Wheels, my eyes lit up because I had a ton of those like everybody. I had the carrying case with them too, but not the wristwatch. I
Oh
did not.
yeah. Well, I remember I got one watch from my grandparents because no, it wasn't Hot Wheels. It was glow in the dark. I was really impressed. I was so impressed. I left it in the pocket of my jeans and it got bashed to death in the dryer when I first watch. First time I. But I know for one birthday I got that 19. I can see it now. I'm pointing to a digital watch like it's a holiday watch, or how. But it was super cool. And like they're mentioned here, like before the Apple Watch, when children wore watches featuring their favorite toy, like before Apple. I mean, that's 50 years before Apple, but okay. There was a lot more watches out, but it was a bestseller. But even today, I mean, honestly, because they say now it's worth as much as 265 bucks.
Wow.
Um, but it's I honestly say if I came across it, I wouldn't even sell it. It'd be worth too much like
Yeah.
emotional to me. I probably have the same size wrist as I did when I was 6 years old or 10 years old too. So it would probably still fit.
Which is why your career in arm wrestling went nowhere. Is that right,
Yeah.
Mitch?
Well, I also have my you know, it's like I tried. But here's one that I'm glad DT's not on today to talk about this one because it would drive him bananas for whatever reason. That Barbie movie just ruined his summer last year. I don't know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
he just couldn't. I don't get it. That's great, but but the busy Barbie. Um, I had sisters, a lot of them. I had five of them, Marty, and that's today
Wow.
why. Yeah, that explains a lot. That's worth a wow
That's
because I
at least three
survived
too
that.
many, at least.
I at least is right. If you've got a sister, and she's big enough to beat your ass, then you've too many sisters.
That's
That's
one too many.
that's one. Clock her out. But what they said about the busy bar. Oh gosh, I didn't make this up. It comes from MSN. What made these Barbie dolls unique were their busy hands. I'm sorry. Okay, good.
Ah.
Get your mind focused. Uh, which, like human hands, could grasp items. Again, let's move on. The hands turned. Oh, I remember they turned at the wrists, and they had simple stuff like that because before that was a solid Barbie. So now you could
Right.
turn their hands, and you
Mm.
could actually twist their waist and knees. Oh yeah, that was fun because I would destroy them, put them in different positions, and just that's probably why my sister was beating the heck out of me.
Now, why, when I think of, yeah, I'm sure you remember the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip,
Oh yeah,
right? That,
yeah,
why does that not make us think the things we think when Barbie has um, the
yeah.
movable hands?
For us,
This
that's
is,
fine. That's because we're dudes. He used it for weapons, not
that's
for
right.
whatever Barbie was using her damn busy hands to do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, this one. I mean, this one's kind of obvious. Number 14. We got to step back to 13 in a second but we will. But 14, they're talking about the early cell phones. Do you remember what your first one was?
I got the first rental house I bought in 1996. I had to shut the power off. It needed a whole bunch of renovation. So I was working over there all the time without. And my mom and dad, for my birthday that year, got me a MASH phone. You remember the cell phones that were like in the bag? They had a big old battery that was about 15 pounds. And
Did
it
you have
had
to
a
crank it?
Velcro. You'd open it up. No, you didn't actually have to crank it, but you'd open it up with his Velcro, and it had the handset that would come out of the cradle that it
Oh,
was in, and
sweet.
you'd punch the
Yeah.
digital numbers on there. So that was right, I guess, right before regular ones started coming out. And it was a godsend to me because I was trying to get, I'm over there working a lot and I'm trying to get people to come, people to give me bids on the plumbing or whatever else. And I'd be incommunicado. And now I've got my MASH phone. I thought I was the coolest kid in the world. I've got this stupid
Oh
big
yeah.
purse. It looks like a purse, with a
I,
handset
I,
in it. And you could actually
I
reach
don't.
me.
Because I remember like back in the early days when somebody pulled out that giant, that it's like I don't know how to say it, but like say like it was like a rectangle and with an antenna, and they would
Yes.
put it by their ear and they're like, "Hey, who
Yep.
you calling, the president?" Like, no, man, it was a little. I was always fascinated because someone I went out with back in the day had like an early '80s Cadillac with a phone in the car. That was solid. It was corded, but it was still pretty cool.
Nice. I remember thinking the time I first thought about that was other than and I don't know what year this was, but Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen at the height of his powers in Wall Street, and Michael
Yeah,
Douglas had that house on the beach, and he stood out on the beach with one of those brick phones like that with the antenna,
yeah. There
making
you
some
go.
kind of important, sell pork bellies or whatever as soon as the market opens in Zurich or something, And I remember thinking, sitting there in the theater in Central Illinois, going, that would be to have it made to be able to walk around with no cord on the beach. Because what good is
Oh,
it if your mansion's on the beach and you have a 500-foot cord? You got to sit there with your big brick phone and make market changing orders. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. It's a
oh
shame
yeah.
we don't have a camera on this thing because this was actually sitting on my desk. I've been going through stuff, There's an
Holy
old, I don't
crap.
know what that's gonna be, whatever era that flip phone is,
That's
but it's
actually kind of, well, because I'm thinking about my first Nokia flip phone. That's actually pretty modern compared to mine. Because mine, you had that fluorescent green little 1 inch screen, 1 inch by maybe an inch and a half,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
would float across. And like, because I remember the first time I got a text, I didn't know what it was. I was like, it was a nice text. It was from my little sister. We just texted today, so we're still doing it. But
Look at
it had to be 2003, I think.
Oh
But
wow.
because it was like, I was like, what the hell is that? It's a fucking text. I got a text.
Alert the
But
media.
speaking about about going back from then to now, because Polaroids are getting popular again. I don't know
Oh
how
yeah,
pop, but that's if you've got one hanging around, good luck because it's probably bogged up with all because the chemicals would come out and get in the rollers
right.
uh, and it would burn your fingers when you try to get it off. Like that's probably not good. But but the vintage ones, they actually say not even like, again not factory sealed, but refurbished can get you up to $1,200.
Wow.
I
Well, man,
know,
Mitch,
I
I
know.
took after graduated high school in 1980, took a trip down to Daytona with a buddy of mine right away after graduation, when you're 18 years old. And I remember I borrowed one of my parents had an old camera. This is tells you about the Simpsons and how wealthy we were. They had an old camera like a box, I think it might have been Kodak, but it was a box shape. And you flipped the top. It wasn't like you didn't put a blanket over your head or something. It wasn't that bad, but it had the thing on the top. I don't know if you ever seen it, but you would lift this little thing up on the top so you'd look down into it to take a picture. And I remember being, trying to take a picture of my buddy. Like in front of the Daytona sign or something. I flipped that up and somebody driving by, smart, yells some smart thing. No, nice job, Ebenezer, or whatever, something. I'm like, screw you guys. This is the best camera I can afford. It's my parents that they got for their
Oh
wedding in
man,
1950, whatever.
it's the same. It's because yeah, I've because I remember like because I mean the last one we're gonna talk about is the Sony Walkman, the original Sony Walkman.
Yes.
And I was surprised to find that I could buy one, I think, for 14.99. And I remember the same girl. Apparently this worked because well, never mind. But I put that original Sony Walkman in a Valentine's gift basket, amongst other things. So there was one hanging around. Uh I mean she left in a
Wow.
hurry, so there might still be one out in the garage, but
So this was the ex-wife, you're saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How I never met her, but I'm gonna denigrate her character because you went to Wisconsin to get her one of those cat clocks and you got her a gift box Walkman.
Yeah.
All of this
That's
failure of the marriage is on her. I absolve
I
you,
know.
just knowing you and not knowing her.
Well, she probably didn't know that I had somewhere in a drawer somewhere that I had a Hot Wheels wristwatch too. So that probably would have sold. But I mean, all this stuff is like, because like you mentioned, like with the phone, I would get like when the CD player version came out of Sony Walkman. There's no way in hell I could afford that. But I
Yeah,
got like the oh what was it like the Galaxy Epic CD. I was like, gotta be just as good. And I would
yeah.
take it and I would go running and I would hold that thing. I'd go for a run and be skip, 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 skip. It's like it's
I remember
it's
that.
just as good. It's just as good.
It's literally Walkman, and you cannot move with it without it. There's
Yeah.
nobody in Japan. They're not sitting around a table, conference table somewhere saying, "Come on, guys, we got to come up with something." You can't call it Walkman and have people not be able to walk with it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why because they didn't come out with a Run Man, the next one, or the Take a Bike Ride Man. But even when they came out with the iPod, even that was called a shuffle. Like there's one of them
Yeah.
like you could pin on your shirt, and like because I
Yep.
remember talking to another good friend named Norma, and I was like, yeah, are you working out with your iPad today? She's like, no, I got my shuffle, and she showed me this little thing. I'm like, what do you got in there? Like 30 songs? She's like, no, 500. Like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa,
It's
whoa.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, come on. But it's kind of fun looking back at all this. I mean, first of all, if anybody's interested, maybe if there's well, actually, for the most part, they sold these on eBay, so there wasn't any real specific websites. But yeah, just take a look around. I doubt, if my DVD player that we talked about is worth anything, but I've got like 5 DVDs that I cannot throw away, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to, in case I have to break it out one day, I have to keep my DVD player.
Well, we converted, I don't know how many years ago this was, maybe not that long, 6 or 7 years, maybe. We had a whole bunch of little VHS tapes or little tapes you had from the old shoulder camera thing when my kids were small. We had all the stuff recorded of them and some little bit of vacation stuff. And so we had it, we sent it to one of those places that all that tape is going bad and stuff. So you have, and what did they do? They put it onto DVDs for us. And now it's like, crap, that's,
Yeah, that
now I'm gonna
helps.
have to send it to somebody. That business is great because now every 7 years you start with a new, oh, take your old DVDs before they're obsolete and put them onto the cloud or whatever it is. There's always going to be something to,
They, I bet their hiring and firing manpower plan just looks like new technology hire. They okay, oh, there's another
oh,
one. It's like, oh,
the whole thing's one bell curve after another. Ah, our
yeah.
cassette business is plummeting. What the hell? We thought
What?
after 8 tracks went, these would be perfect.
What's this? What's this freaking cloud? They're taking everything. Because I
Well, have you
remember
ever thought
because
about when you sent this topic? I thought, what does it say about? I've heard this. I don't know if this applies to you, but for collecting kind of stuff, like baseball cards were huge when I was a kid, and
yeah,
even bigger probably for our dad's generation. Everybody knew there was a bunch of geeks in my school that knew everybody's batting averages and could tell you, even old guys. Ted Williams had the best, whatever. They'd have those and those were huge, and you get them in gum and everything, and the Honus Wagner, whatever. Everybody, there's one or two old cards from
yeah,
19
that's the
teams or
one.
something that are worth a
Tobacco
trillion
card.
dollars. Yeah,
Yeah.
so but I wonder, I've heard that market has been slowly eroding because, and I think it's sadly because guys are dying. The generation of people who really were, I'm not nearly the baseball fan my dad was. I think, America's pastime has been football for 25 years probably now. It overtook baseball as the nation's most popular game. And between that and the fact that the old guys, everybody had those old, I'm sure Mickey Mantles, there's a bunch of really great cards that are worth a bunch, but I don't know, are they making them still, or have you seen them, or did your sons
Oh
collect
yeah,
them?
I guarantee because I have a friend who lives down well in Orlando, Florida, and he still regularly buys packages and gets excited by the cards he finds. So,
Oh,
but he's
huh.
a bit of an odd duck. So I don't know. And believe me, that's a understatement. But I don't know. I don't know if that is there's a market. But hey, maybe another episode. You never know. Because this
Yeah,
was all basically old technology, and I
right.
appreciate you coming with as we took a walk down memory kind of lane. I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna wake up screaming about Barbie's hands, like in the
that's right. Yeah.
get the
Well, we
hell
took a
away
very
from me.
slow walk as with our memories that are as fragile as an old Walkman disc player that you could not walk very fast.
I'm just glad we could find a couple opportunities to make fun of DT in his absence. So that'll teach him. That's like
Absolutely.
someone who doesn't come to a meeting that they're all invited to. Like, guess who gets all the assignments?
That's right.
You
Someone's got
do.
to mention that he's gay at every meeting that he's not there. Just not that there's anything wrong with that. You and I know we try not to
It's,
judge him, but
we don't judge. Yeah, be fine.
no.
Well, thanks thanks for spending some time, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to use my skills as I edit the part out.
It's good to see you,
But
Mitch.
yeah, it's good to see you. I'm glad that we had the time, and we got to do it again. I enjoy uh, having the opportunity to well, yeah, to make fun of DT, but just a snappy repartee between us two.
That's right.
Snappy. Do you hear that?
Snappy. Make it snappy.
All right, Prof. Prof. Sorry, I took a liberty there. Good day, Professor. Thank you for joining us.
I said good day. See you, Mitch.
Later, man.